Check 1, 2, 3. Here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Good morning. Hello, hello. I'm here. I'm on. Testing.
Hey, what's up, Tom? Hope you're doing well today. I just wanted to jump on real quick, send you a video message. Sean gave me good advice because this is a great way to connect with people, let them see my handsome face and give them a more personal update on just movement stuff. So here I am doing it, and I just wanted to thank Mountain View for being such a big part of movement the last few years. And as we come into 2022, we're excited. We have a leadership team in place, which we haven't had in a long time, and that crew's been meeting. We've got a good rhythm, and things are just going really well right now. But last night we had our first gathering at Legion. It's the first time our church has gathered in a public space since the beginning of the pandemic. We've migrated into homes and worked on our home group ministries, that kind of thing, throughout 2020 and 2021, and we did some like big gatherings in backyards and parks and stuff, but this is the first time we've like rented a space, and Mountain View's financial assistance and prayer and just partnership with us made that possible, and it was an awesome night. So we had believers and non-believers who gathered up in that space and talked about dealing with grief and loss, and it was awesome. I was just blown away at how people were able to connect and hear us talk about the gospel and the importance of pressing into a spiritual community to grow spiritually. So it was cool, and I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks for being a part of this. It means the world, and I'm full of joy just that last night was this just beautiful collision of grace and people from all different kinds of walks of life. So I love you. Thanks for the support. Please tell Mountain View we are incredibly grateful, or show them this video, or show your missions team this video, because it's because of people like you who believe in unique expressions of church planting like us that this is even possible. Love you guys. Hey, what's up, Tom?
You guys are like, this is not how you're supposed to start church, right? And so we threw you a little loop on you today, or threw you in a little loop is what I'm trying to say. Hey, it's the time of year where we try to take just a few moments each week, and so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to take just a couple of moments and talk about just some things that God has done, and then invite you to partner with us, all right? And so that was Sam Wake, and Sam Wake is a church planter that our missions team started to support for a 2 to 3 year period of time through Expand Northwest, which is formerly NWCEA. And Sam is one of those guys that I wish we could have experienced him before today, but guess what happened in March of 2020, right about the time we started supporting him? Something happened. And so their church has been able to meet for the very first time. They have a couple of house churches, and then they're meeting once a month for kind of a celebration time at a biker shop in Southeast Portland, all right? I've been there. It's rather interesting. All right, and a good interesting, okay? And so Sam wanted to say thank you because through COVID, we were able to help support Movement Church and Sam and Kelsey Wake because of your faithfulness. And so one of the things that we do and kind of required is we have a finance report just to update you where we're at. And so we're going to take just a moment to do that. I'd like to introduce you to our treasurer. Many of you know him, some of you may not. His name is Dick Carroll. And so would you give Dick a warm Mountain View appreciation?
Good morning. Boy, it's different from this angle, you know. There's some stuff showing up on the screen, and the main reason is for you to be able to see some of the things that have been accomplished around here, and also to take the focus off of me. So feel free to stare up there and not stare at me. As Tom said, I'm one of your elders. I recently accepted the position of treasurer, not really realizing what that was going to be, because the last time I was in a role like that was about 40 years ago here at Mountain View. Debbie and I have been coming to Mountain View since 1977. So I'm an elder, and I'm the eldest elder of all the elders. But that doesn't help me any. So anyway, first of all, on behalf of the elders and the staff, I want to thank each and every one of you for your commitment to Mountain View. Not only for being here and attending and receiving Tom's message, but for your giving, your financial commitment to Mountain View. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to support other churches. We wouldn't have the lights on without you guys, because we don't have a parent organization, an archdiocese, or some large group that supports us. We don't have a backstop. We don't have a safety net. You are the safety net at Mountain View. So I have to share a couple of things for you because the state requires us to. So last year when we went into this program, we asked you to fill out a card and tell us how much you thought you were going to be able to give for the work of Mountain View in God's kingdom. And because of that, we've been able to accomplish some of the things you see up on the screen. We've been able to keep the lights on, which is really important because it gets really dark in here. I have to thumb through this to find the numbers. All right. Through last Sunday, which is almost 10 months of our fiscal year, our income was $1,159,000 and change. And our expenses were $930,000, and that's accounting kinds of expenses. Makes it sound like we should just have a ton of money left over. But most of the difference between our income and our expenses went to reduce our mortgage. Those don't count as expenses from, do they, Roger? They don't count as expenses, but they're still cash, thank you, Carol. They're still cash outflow, and so we need to make a profit, income over expenses, in order to be able to pay down our mortgage, or the bank gets upset with us. So we're still on the mark. Our income and our expenses and our pay down of our mortgage are all within the budget constraints that you guys set. When we took in your cards last year, we used those numbers to develop our budget. We cut and pasted, moved things around, because the original budget numbers submitted by the various departments were more than that. But we listened to what you were telling us, and that was the amount we had to work with. So, thank you. Thank you again. It's very important that we have committed people making contributions each month. So, what do we do going from there? We need to do it again. The fiscal year starts July 1st, and we need to have our budget in place. And so we're going to go through the same kind of a process that we've done for the last 9 or 10 years. Now, I was supposed to say, here's Tanny, our asset manager, one of your elders, that is going to explain how that's going to work. Guess what? Tanny is sick. So Tanny can't do it. So he went through a list of 15 or 20 people that maybe could do it for him. When he got down to the bottom of the list, the name Tom was there. So Tom's going to do it. Huh? Now most of you know Tom? Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dick. Thanks. So you heard some good news, and this is, I've got pastor friends. I've shared this for the last several years. They're like, how do you create a budget and win? I'm like, well, we ask our church to tell us what their plans are, and it's that simple. And every year we're able to at least project an income and then align expenses to it because we ask you to communicate with us. And so I sent in the all-church email on Friday, a link. You can follow the link and fill in the link and give us the information. Or when you walk out today at the tables, there's a card that looks like this, and it just simply asks, would you please give us what your intentions are as far as giving is for the next year? And we will take that and use that information. By the way, it's confidential. Only 1 or 2 people see it. Nobody else does. That's important just in the integrity of the process. And so if you drop this card off in the offering buckets that are at the table, or you can use the online link, whatever is easiest for you, we would love for you to communicate with us so that we can plan the best budget. Does that make sense? Excellent. Let's stand and let's get to worship.
Louder than the unbelief. The King is alive. I'll raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I'll raise a hallelujah. I will watch the darkness flee. I'll raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery. I'll raise a hallelujah. Fear you lost your hold on me. And I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar up from the ashes. Hope will arise. Death is defeated. The King is alive. Sing a little louder. 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 In the presence of my enemies. Sing a little louder. Louder than the unbelief. Sing a little louder. My weapon is a melody. Sing a little louder. Heaven comes to fight for me. Sing a little louder. And I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar up from the ashes. Hope will arise. Death is defeated. The King is alive. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar up from the ashes. Hope will arise. Death is defeated. The King is alive. King's alive. The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. My God will never fail. My God will never fail. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory.
You believe that this morning?
For the battle belongs to you, Lord.
Oh, we're gonna see a victory, Jesus. I am power.
There's power in the mighty name of Jesus. Every war we wage is He will turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord.
Saints, let's sing it.
I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory.
Yes, we will.
For the battle belongs to you,
Oh, let's sing that again,
Lord.
church.
I'm gonna see your victory.
In Jesus'
I'm
name,
gonna see your victory.
by the power of the
For
Lamb.
the battle belongs to you, Lord. Whoa.
Hey, I am I am really happy today to bring something back that has been missing for a while, at least in Mountain View's worship services. And so, if you're new, I'll tell you what's going to happen here. In our normal rhythm, every week we allow an opportunity for folks to pray together. And so we're going to invite you, if you would like to come forward and pray with somebody, or if you would like to be prayed with. As we go into the bridge of this song, you can feel free just to come on up. There's nothing special necessarily about up here in front of the stage other than it's an opportunity for us to pray together as a church. So as we sing the bridge here through, if you would like someone to pray with you, if you want to pray with somebody, you can just come up forward. If you're not comfortable moving this way, if you just want to raise your hand, someone will come over and put a hand on your shoulder, and we'll move into prayer time. So let's go ahead and let's bring that the rest of that song through. Come on forward if you'd like to do so.
I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Power of Jesus.
God, we believe that. And God, we're thankful that we gather here today and celebrate because of the power that Jesus had over death and the grave. Resurrected, sitting at your right hand, entertaining our worship. So God, I'm thankful that we get to be here today and we get to celebrate that. We get to live in that reality. And God, as we come before you, I'm grateful that you bend an ear to us to hear our prayers today. And God, as we come, we just lay at your feet our lives. God, we lay at your feet our concerns and our cares and our worries and our strife. God, our heartache and our burdens and our stress. God, I am grateful that you are able to hear all the prayers that are going up right now in this room and in the church across town and other churches in our state. God, you can hear the cries of our people, your people. So if you have a burden to lift this morning, I'll give you a moment to do that. God, I'm grateful that we don't have to go alone. I'm thankful for people that surround us this morning. Reach out and touch, encourage. And God, as we gather this morning, there is a work that you are doing in us. So God, help our hearts be open to the Spirit and what he would say to us this morning through our music, through quiet time, through the message, through your word. God, help us to hear, to be open to what you are doing in us. God, help us to be open to be available and ready for the work that you would do through us this week. The people that we would touch, and the neighbor, the coworker, the friend, the relative who needs to experience Jesus in us, through us. So God, prepare us today. If that's a word that you need to work in our hearts and our lives today to make us ready, God, help us be open to that. Man, if there's a truth that we need to hear today that would root out some sin in our lives, God, help us to hear that. To encourage us, help us to hear that. To prepare us for the work that you have for us to do this week, God, help us to listen. And then, God, help us to leave here the burdens that you have promised that you would take from us. God, help us to carry your cross, not our stuff, out into the world this week so that we may participate in kingdom work. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Please be seated.
This just in, breaking news is breaking out everywhere. Faith Saley has the very, very latest.
If you're just joining us, I'm covering some breaking news. You know news is breaking because I'm telling you so, and I might touch my earpiece like this. And it's also important that you read breaking news right there in the corner of the screen. And if you turn the channel to any other cable news outlet, you're going to see the same thing. So don't look away from our breaking news to their breaking news.
Oh, isn't that reality? Yes. So we're starting a new series today, and it's about being stressed out. Anybody have stress in their life? Just curious. Anybody not have, like you live a no stress life whatsoever? You just don't. Anybody? Good. A couple of people. I like that. That's good. So in March, I was reading a poll or a newspaper article. I told the ladies who helped prepare all these newspapers, it's not so much the newspapers that stress me out, it's how the clutter of the newspapers that stresses me out. Anybody else? Good. That's exactly what it was supposed to do today. So in March, I read a article, and this was the headline of the article: Americans are besieged by stress. Poll finds. I'm like, really? I mean, you think about the concerns over nuclear war, the concerns over inflation, the concerns over, well, not to mention 2 years of a global pandemic and what that will do to you, and then financial struggles added to that, and horrifying scenes from Ukraine, senseless mass murders that take place, civil unrest, gas prices, food shortages. I hear at least once a week on the news about the Cascadia earthquake that is to come, right? The stock market fluctuation, housing and rent prices. I mean, Mike Tyson punches a guy this week, and Russell Wilson's traded to the Denver Broncos, right? I mean, you think about all of these things. The world seems to be falling apart. And it seems to be falling apart in a way that we've never experienced or we've never seen before, or at least that's what we think. And all of this has pushed us to an unprecedented level of stress. And if stress is a normal part of our everyday lives, then we are in good company with one another. As a matter of fact, 84% of Americans feel stressed at least once a week. Wow. That's up. That's up from 78% just a year ago. Stress is a thing, and I didn't know this until this week, by the way. April is Stress Awareness Month. Like, we even get a month to deal with stress, right? And we're not doing this sermon because of that. We planned this sermon series way back in July because we realized we're just stressed people. And so in this series, we're going to talk about our stress. or stress is the news. Money, which is the top source of stress. Technology, family. How about contentment? How about self-health? And so the series isn't going to make your life stressless, although I wish we could do that because it would just be super. But what my hope is that we can be able to help one another stress less. Does that make sense? So we're not going to be able to remove the stress from our lives, but I think that there are some biblical principles for all of us that can help us live a less stressful life, to stress less in our daily lives. And here's why. Matthew records something beautiful and unique about Jesus. And I think this is one of maybe the most beautiful verses in the entire Bible, because what Jesus offers is completely different, totally different, a better life. He offers a better life, a different type of religion, or a different type of what political people could offer. And so are we willing to learn? Are we willing to come and see? This is what Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 says. It says, "Come to me." This is Jesus. He says, "Come to me, all who labor and all who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Think about this. Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." Are we willing to learn from him? And this is how Jesus defines himself. He says, "I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." I love this picture of a yoke. You know what a yoke is, right? If you've been around the church, you certainly probably have heard this illustrated many times, but a yoke is the heavy crossbar laid on two oxen, and it's to force them to drag equipment for farming through the field. And so think about that. It forces them to do this. And if we want to stress less, then we need to capture what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is saying, my yoke isn't heavy. My yoke isn't a burden. My yoke it's kindness is what it is. And I want you to know, regardless of where you're stressing out in life, Jesus is gentle and he is lowly. And no matter what's going on, no matter what's stressing us out, no matter what's driving us to be bitter, aggravated, irritated people, Jesus says, I am gentle. He's saying, I'm meek and I'm humble. I'm gentle. He isn't harsh. He isn't exasperated. Jesus is the most caring, the most compassionate, and the most understanding person ever. And he is available and he is accessible to us. Jesus declares, I am gentle and I am lowly. And this is so important for all of us, because maybe Jesus understood the long-term chronic effects of stress, serious effects that it does on our hearts, our minds, our bodies, right? Like a heavy crossbar laid upon us in this journey through life. Jesus is saying, I want to reduce that. I want to remove that. I don't know if you know this or not, but stress can cause some serious issues, right? So if you're not stressed out yet about being stressed, I'm here to help you. When our body is stressed, we tense up. Did you know this? We tense up. Chronic stress causes us to have muscles that are constantly in guardedness against everything and everybody. Have you ever been stressed and somebody says something to you and you just... Rah, 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 rah. Husbands, ever done that to your wife? Wife, has your husband ever done that to you? No? No, right? This is part of it. The respiratory system gives oxygen to cells in our body, right? And our respiratory system removes carbon dioxide. Well, stress, what does stress do? It shortens our breath. It causes rapid breathing, which makes our nose and our lungs constricted. The cardiovascular system. What is it? The hearts and the blood vessels, right? Short-term and long-term stress can create problems to both the heart and the blood vessels. This is why you hear about hypertension and stroke and heart. Stressed people. Stress can mess up our hormones, and it communicates with our immune system, and our immune system can shut down, and we get sick. Right? Our guts are fascinating. My favorite Greek word actually, splonkna, right? The bowels. The depth of the guts. They mess with us in stress. Stress can mess with the bacteria in our guts. It regulates our moods. You know, when you're stressed because you got a crush, your butterflies are all floating around, right? But if it's not a good stress, then you have acid reflux or heartburn, stomach pain, bloating, nausea, and I'll stop there. Because you can figure out the rest. How about the nervous system? I mean, the nervous system, when we are stressed for long periods of time and chronic stress, it puts a drain on us. We're exhausted, overwhelmed. The reproductive system. Ask anybody who's gone through anything in regards to infertility how stressful that all is. And then the stress actually creates bigger challenges. But there's good news. There really is. There's good news to help us stress less. And I think it's great news. And so I want us to look at Psalm 46. And that's where we're going to dig in first. Psalm 46, it says this. And many of you have heard this. You're familiar with it. It says, God is our refuge and our strength. He's a very present help in trouble. Isn't that good news? That's great news, right? Because no matter what's going on in our city, no matter what's going on in our state or our country or across the world, no matter whether you're happy or disappointed, excited or scared, we can be thankful to God because He is our refuge. He's our strength. He's our hiding place. He is our shelter. He is our help, or maybe a better word, our hope in times of trouble. This is who He is. But I want to bring this passage into context. This particular verse, and then we'll look at the rest of this chapter. But this is what is happening, right? It's understood that this psalm was written probably around 700 BC, and it was during the reign of an evil king, an evil Assyrian king who attacked Jerusalem. Now here's the thing. The Assyrians were evil. They were brutal. Historically, this army was one of the most efficient and feared military forces in the ancient world. And the Assyrians had some of the most advanced weapons of the day. They had some of the most advanced strategic training. They were brutal not only when they attacked, but they attacked to destroy. It was their total objective to destroy, humiliate, and devastate their enemies. As a matter of fact, they would actually use psychological warfare too. During and after battles to terrorize their enemies. They would engrave on tablets of stone what they would do to the prisoners of the battle. And so I've got some cool pictures for us, right? And so here, they would send these tablets ahead. Hey, we're going to come and attack you, and if you don't cooperate, this is what's going to happen. We're going to impale your body on a pole as a form of torture and execution. Now, if you got that postcard in the mail, how would you feel? Oh, somebody's coming over to bring us some cookies. No. Right? Or how about this one? They were brutal. They would often skin you alive if you were captured. And so here, I like the bottom of the picture here where the guy's got his hand in his mouth. Right? Pure torture. Pure torture. Then to make things worse, if I haven't already grossed you out, the Assyrian warriors would wear a nose or an ear or a finger on a necklace to show dominance. Great. This is what's happening in Psalm 46. This is what I need you to understand. This is the reference. People are terrified. People are scared. People are stressed out beyond limits. They felt hopeless. Yet God gives them hope. And God says, I am your refuge. I am your strength. And I am your help. Do you hear what's going on? Now, 2,700 years later, the same God gives the exact same hope. He is our refuge. He is our strength. He is our help. And the moment we are in trouble, He is ready. And our world affairs and our individual challenges don't catch God off guard. It's not as if God is surprised by what's happening. And so look what happens in Psalm 46. It says this, therefore, we will not fear. Maybe we should say, we will not stress. We will not stress through the earth, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. It says there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters His voice, and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Verse 9 says, He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. And then verse 10, be still and know that I am God. And I will be exalted among the nations, and I will be exalted in the earth. Man, do you hear this? We like the verse 1. We quote that a lot. We like verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. You've heard those verses. But what's happening in the middle of all of this is the Assyrians are attacking Jerusalem, and they are experiencing incredible amounts of torture. And in verse 1, I love this because the Hebrew meaning is incredible. Our English just doesn't do it justice. The phrase in verse 1, very present help in trouble, is this nimsha miod. And nimsa means to be discovered, encountered, and experienced. In other words, you can't just describe God's help. There are no words to describe how good God is and how much He helps us in our times of need. There are no words to explain and to describe how wonderful God is. And miod means exceedingly abundant. In other words, God is so much, He can't be described by words. He's our very help. He's our very present help in our time of need. He is so helpful that I can't even describe it to you. He is so powerful and He is so good that words cannot explain it. What does it mean for God to be our strength? What does it mean for Him to be our refuge, our ever-present help in trouble, especially in times of overwhelming stress? What does it mean when we are uneasy and we can't rest or we can't sleep at night? What does it mean when we watch the news and worry about the future and worry about our kids and worry about our grandkids? And what does it mean in the middle of a global pandemic? What does it mean when our jobs feel insecure? What does it mean when our marriage is hanging on barely by a thread? What does this mean when our kids mess up or we're caring for our aging parents? What does it mean when we doubt and wonder? What is God in our moment of need when the world seems to be falling apart and nothing but bad news is constantly around us? What does it all mean? It means God is God. And He is so good, He can't even be described. He can't even be described. He is so much more beyond anything that we could possibly imagine. And my prayer for us is that whatever we face, especially the stress that we endure because of what's happening around us, that we would all experience the presence of God in ways that we can't even put into words. And that's my prayer this week. This is the good news. No matter what we're facing, no matter how bad we're hurting, no matter what's stressing us out, we really are. God is a God of peace. God is our comforter. God is our strength, and God is our hope, and God is our refuge, and God is our hiding place. He is our fortress. He is our rock. He is our defender. And so listen, no matter how bad it is in your life right now, no matter how bad it is around you, there is good news. And the good news isn't just good, it is the best news ever. The psalmist says the nations rage. Doesn't it feel like that's the case when you turn on the news? Yes, everyone is raging. And yet, what does it say? It says the Lord of hosts is with us. Do you know what the word is for Lord of hosts? Emmanuel. Have you heard that before? I know we just finished Easter, so you got to go back a few months to Christmas. But what does Emmanuel mean? Jesus, God with us. God didn't just shout his love from heaven. God sent his love to earth. This is the good news. And Hebrews says that he endured everything that we've endured without sin. This is good news. God showed his love to us, his care and his compassion to us through Jesus. And then this is what Jesus says. Look at this. John 16. Verse 31. Jesus answered them. He's talking to the disciples. In a typical discussion, do you believe? Do you understand what I'm about to do? I've been telling you, you don't get it, right? This whole conversation. But this is what he says. Jesus answered them. Do you now believe? Jesus says, behold, the hour is coming. Indeed, it has come when you will be scattered. That sounds stressful, doesn't it? Each to his own home, and you will leave me. I know you've laid everything down, and you've chosen to follow me, but it's about to all end and change, and you're going to be scattered. You might even be tortured. As a matter of fact, we know that 11 of the 12 disciples were tortured for their mission, killed. Matthew, we're told, was flayed alive in Ethiopia. Like this is what Jesus is talking about. He's like, this is not going to go good for you all. I hope we understand that, right? So he says, yet I am not alone, for the Father is with me. And he says to his disciples, I have said these things to you, that in me, you may have peace. I hope we understand. I shouldn't need to say this, but I hope we understand totally and completely and fully that you cannot find peace anywhere else. You can't find peace in your income. You can't find peace in your job. You can't find peace in the politicians you elect. You can't find peace in military might. Peace does not exist anywhere else except for in Jesus. In me, he says, I want you to have peace. And then he says this, in the world, you're going to have a lot of stress. You're going to have a lot of tribulation. You're going to have a lot of persecution. In the world, it's going to be really crummy. Jesus says this. Why are we surprised? But take heart, because I have overcome the world. Take heart, because I have conquered the world. I have overcome the world. Trouble is guaranteed. It's not an if trouble happens. It's when trouble happens. Take heart. Take heart. Why are we looking for peace in all the wrong places? Why do we pursue peace in all the different places when Jesus says it is in me that you will find peace? You can't find peace anywhere else. In business, you're recognized. How important you are by finding out how many people you need to work through to get to them. Does that make sense? If you call some CEO of the company, you're going to get some receptionist somewhere who's then going to send you probably to their office, and somebody else is going to answer. And then eventually you might make it to an executive assistant of some sort. I mean, you might go through 4 or 5 people only to find out that they're in the shower, or they're on the golf course, or they are on a trip, or not in the office, or busy, or in a meeting, taking a nap. I don't know what else they'd be doing. It isn't that way in the kingdom of God. Jesus says, I am gentle and lowly. I have overcome the world. And I am accessible to you. I am there for you. You can have instant, immediate, direct, and valued access to Jesus. Jesus has already overcome the world. Already done it. Even if the worst is still to come, the disciples can have peace. They can have peace that will carry them through it. Even if the worst for us is still yet to come, we too can have peace because Jesus reminds us that He's already won. There are difficult times. There are scary headlines. Pair arrested after Troutdale armed robbery. Enrollment decreases. Gresham shootings up 200% in 2022. Should I go on? I think in this paper it takes page... Look, you even get the public notices before you get to something good. Like there's trouble all around us, isn't there? And Jesus says, even if it gets worse, even if it gets worse, even if the headlines get worse, and even if the news totally stresses me out, I want you to know that I am gentle and I am lowly and I can give you rest. I want us to know that God is our refuge, that He is our strength, that He is our help, and that Jesus has overcome the world. And in Him we can have peace. So here's what I think. How do we stress less? How do we live making sure the news and the headlines don't stress us out? I heard Andy Stanley tell a story, and I really appreciate this story. He said this. He said, sometimes I just want to stop. And he said this a couple of years ago. He said, the talk of COVID, looting, brutality, I've lost my way, and I have become convinced that this is the new normal in real life. But then Andy says this. He said, then I met an 87-year-old who talks of living through polio and Vietnam and the protests and still is enchanted with life. He seemed surprised when I said 2020 must be the most challenging year of his life. He said, no. Slowly looking me straight in the eye, I learned a long time ago to not see the world through the printed headlines. I see the world through the people that surround me. I see the world with the realization that we love big. Therefore, I just choose to write my own headlines. And as Andy's meeting with him, he says, like look over there. Husband loves wife today. Look over there. Family drops everything to have coffee with grandma. Andy said, the old man patted my hand and said, old man makes new friend. And maybe this is the best advice I could give us today. To live a life with less stress. The best advice is this. Let's write our own headlines. Let's write our own headlines. If our response to bad news is to write our own headlines, something's going to change in our hearts. It just is. It doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge the bad or don't exist. We just don't exist focusing on the bad. And instead we start focusing on the better. Because we believe, people of peace, that peace can be restored. And maybe you can stress less this week and find real peace. What are the headlines that you could write? In our home, it would be, the boys put their laundry away without being asked. Woo! Yes, there is a God. Right? Neighbor helps neighbor. What headline? I want you to think about this. What headline could you write this week? I think it was Mr. Rogers who said, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. And we get the headlines, but there is so much more going on beneath the headlines. What headline are you going to write this week? If you can find a way to write some good headlines, you will be able to stress less. You really will. I think Jesus said it something like this: it's better to give than it is to receive, right? He talked a lot about that kind of thinking. So right now, I keep pausing because I want you to be thinking, everybody. What headline could you write this week? A good headline. I think of when Jesus died. Could you imagine the headlines of the day? I mean, we even know historically that some people after the resurrection claimed that, the disciples stole the body of Jesus. Hey, thank you. Give Bev a round of applause, would you? She's going to love me for that, by the way. But then can you imagine the headlines as Jesus appeared to different people throughout the next 40 days, appearing to people, showing up to people, Jesus sighting, helping someone again, Jesus sighting, giving food to those in need, Jesus sighting, talking about the way of his kingdom, that it's not of this world, but it's so much more. Would you pause for a few moments? Would you eat the bread and drink the juice? And remember today that he is gentle, he is lowly, he wants to give us rest, and in him we can have peace. Peace that you will not be able to find anywhere else. Go ahead and take a few minutes, think about those things, eat and drink.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well. haste the day. Oh Lord, haste the day. The faith shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound. Hallelujah. And the Lord shall be said, even so it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, with my soul.
Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is He. Sing a new song to Him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is He. Sing a new song to Him who sits on heaven's mercy seat.
Sing holy.
And holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Clothed in rainbows of living color, flashes of lightning, rolls of thunder. Blessing and honor, strength and glory and power be to you, the only wise King. Yeah. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. I will adore you. Filled with wonder, awestruck wonder at the mention of your name. Jesus, your name is power, breath and living water, such a marvelous mystery.
It's a good day to be together. Hope you're encouraged today. Man, if you're here today with us in person or with us online, and Jesus is not Lord and Savior, and you're living stressed out, and you need peace and hope and rest, man, call me at the church today, this week. Email me. Address is there. I'd love to talk with you. If you're in the room today, man, I'm going to be right here. Don't leave without knowing Jesus. For the rest of us this week, rest in Him and let Him bring you peace this week. You're dismissed.